Hello. Many are familiar with the fear of flying on an airplane. And although accident statistics are rare, but the only chance that the plane could fall into a severe storm or the engine would fail could cause many of us to shake with fear at the very thought of flying. This fear is familiar to many, but not many people know how difficult it is for pilots who have to do everything possible to save passengers, crew, and themselves from death when force majeure circumstances occur. Here are examples of the most incredible landings of airplanes when, despite the mortal danger, the pilots could not only control their fear but also save hundreds of lives. Large planes, in comparison with small birds, look like kings of the sky. But sometimes a small bird can cause the fall of such a steel giant. This fell to the share of the Airbus A320, which flew from New York to Seattle. In the air, he encountered a flock of grey geese. Everything happened almost immediately after takeoff. The plane began to shake. Passengers saw through the illuminators how the engine caught fire. The cabin began to panic. But the crew commander did not succumb to panic and immediately reported to the dispatch about what happened and began to look for a way out of this situation. Having realized that it is impossible to keep the plane in the air and that it will not work to reach the airport in order to save the lives of passengers and residents of the city over which this flight flew, the pilot decides to land on the only accessible landing strip, the surface of the lake Hudson. Thanks to the pilot's skill, the idea was a success, and the plane, like the waterfowl that caused the incident, splashed down, and the lucky passengers came to the surface of the wings of the plane to safely wait for the rescuers that were coming up. Nowadays, flying on an airplane will not surprise anyone, but not everyone can brag about flying on the roof of an airplane. But pilot Tim Lancaster can. In 1990, he flew out of the airport in Birmingham in the morning, directing his passenger plane to Spain. After 13 minutes of flight, when a height of 5,000 meters was gained, Tim loosened his seat belt. Suddenly, with a loud pop, a windshield flew out, mounting directly opposite Tim. Lancaster was thrown out of the cabin by pressure, but his legs somehow miraculously got stuck in the cabin, preventing him from tearing himself away from the plane. A fierce wind pushed him against the body of the plane, and the flight attendant grabbed at his feet with a dead grip. The second pilot transmitted a distress signal and began to reduce the flight altitude. Poor Lancaster was forced to fly pressed to the roof until the plane was landing. When the plane landed, doctors discovered a frostbitten Lancaster whose arms were broken. But he was alive. He quickly recovered, and after 5 months he returned to work again. It turned out that the culprit of the incident was a mechanic, who on the eve of the flight changed the windshield and screwed it with the wrong bolts, which had a diameter less than required. Be that as it may, even the most skilled stuntman will not risk repeating such an extreme flight. Boeing 747 flew from London to arrive in Auckland, New Zealand, with stops in India, Malaysia, and Australia. It was a standard flight. But after leaving Kuala Lumpur, smoke appeared in the cabin. Passengers were alarmed by a possible fire. Then their attention was attracted by the bright glow around the wings. The pilots observed the same glow from the cockpit around the windshield. These were the so-called Elmer lights, and all pilots know that they arise during a thunderstorm. But there was no thunderstorm on the radars. Passengers' despair increased to a maximum when fire began to go out of all 4 engines. Then they all failed, and restarting didn't help. Even the crew already began to think that there was no chance of salvation. But at an altitude of 4,100 meters, a miracle happened when the 4th engine suddenly started working, and then the other engine started working too. Pilots deployed the plane and landed it at the Jakarta airport. 15 crew members and about 250 passengers were happy to land on this island, which became the reason of the emergency landing. It turned out that a volcano erupted on the island into the cloud of ash from which the plane hit. Bad weather can create a lot of trouble for the pilot. A hurricane can lead to disaster. When the plane landed in Hamburg, suddenly at speed of 120 km per hour, gusts of the strong wind came in, which was an echo of passing Hurricane Emma. The brave pilot decided to land the plane at all costs, and when the plane almost touched the landing strip, a strong gust of wind came and tilted the plane, so that it hit the landing strip with the left wing. An experienced pilot was able to level his plane and lift it into the air. Failure did not break him, and making a circle over the airport, the pilot made a new attempt and was able to land the plane. The Boeing 767, owned by Air Canada, once made an amazing landing. This aircraft, which weighs 132 tons, stopped the engines during the flight. Then, almost all the electronics failed due to lack of energy. In addition, pressure dropped in the system, and controlling the helm and other steering gears has become an extremely difficult task. It was a great success that there was an experienced pilot at the helm who remembered that there was an abandoned Gimli air base nearby. Pilots forced the plane to land from a height of 20,000 meters. They safely landed him on the runway of the Gimli base, where motor racing was just taking place. Later it turned out that the cause of this incident was a human error. At Ottawa airport, kilograms and pounds mixed up. Instead of the prescribed 20 tons of kerosene, only about 5 tons were poured into the tank. Friends, if you also think that such masters of the aircraft are worthy of respect, then put likes and write about it in the comments under this video. I hope it was interesting.